today on FanDuel TV. The road to the Kentucky Derby continues through Colonial Downs on Virginia Derby Day. Don't miss 3-year-old hopefuls in the $500,000 Virginia Derby.
And the race is on.
With the winner earning 50 Derby qualifying points. And top fillies give their all in the Virginia Oaks, a Kentucky Oaks prep. Join FanDuel TV live from Colonial Downs and play Virginia Derby Day on the FanDuel Racing app.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into a very special edition of FanDuel TV here on this Saturday, mid-March, and yet another stop on the trail to the Kentucky Derby, leading to 151, our Derby there in Louisville, Kentucky. And we have on-site coverage here throughout the country here today, and a special new look at one destination, which we're going to get to here in just a bit. But we're coming up on essentially the final round of prep races on the Kentucky Derby Trail, where the points start to go up, and horses that cross the wire first essentially punch their ticket to the Kentucky Derby. And speaking of our current leaderboard here, as we're about 10 years into the points trail, you know, back 10 plus years ago, we went off earnings. So let's take a look at the points right now. And I've always thought that 40 is the cutoff point. So right now I've got 6 horses that are qualified to get to the Kentucky Derby. Starting at number 7, Getaway Car. Every other horse would probably need to do some more work before they get into Louisville. But Coal Battle with Lonnie Briley. Really, Lonnie's been the face of the 2025 Derby Trail. It's been an amazing story down there in Arkansas. Owen Almighty, they're not even sure they're going to go to the Derby, but he's coming off of a big win. Citizen Bull's our reigning champion. Sovereignty, another one by End of Mischief. And Flood Zone came out of nowhere for that most recent win. And then Journalism, arguably with the best performance here so far. But if you look at the Virginia Derby, we've seen some of the best turf horses this century win this race. We're talking about Kitten's Joy. We're talking about horses like Gio Ponte coming to mind. Some of our best grass horses in the last 20 years. But this year, as you know, the Virginia Derby looking a little bit different. And we have our on-site coverage here from New Kent, Virginia. We're talking about Joaquin Jaime and Joe Talamo. Gentlemen, looking forward to kind of the first running of a new race today.
No shadow. Hey, Caleb, good morning to you. Yes, we welcome you to Colonial Downs for the Virginia Derby. As you mentioned, a race that is generally run later in the summer on the grass, but today is the very first time that the Virginia Derby is going to be run on the dirt and offer qualifying points to the winner of this race to the Kentucky Derby. Joe, the winner of this race will accumulate 50 qualifying points, and to use a phrase from the Breeders' Cup, this is essentially a win and you're in for the first Saturday in May.
Without a doubt. And it's going to be an exciting race. It's 3 scratches in there, so it's a 7-horse field. Nice short field, but I'm excited to see it because we mentioned that yesterday. 1 turn, mile and an eighth. You really don't see that too much in America besides Belmont Park, and I think it's going to be a real competitive race, too.
The 2, John Hancock, was an earlier scratch through the week. He's being rerouted to the Louisiana Derby. The 1, Calling Card for Mike Maker, is scratched, and then the other one on the outside, the 10, Georgia Magic, is also scratched. So originally a field of 10, reduced down to a field of 7. The morning line odds are going to be completely thrown out of whack with the defections in here. Getaway Car and Rapture, they're going to be much lower prices than what is reflected on the morning line. And Joe, we take a look at the head-to-head between the 2 main players in this race. Getaway Car looking for back-to-back stakes wins, and then maybe an up-and-comer, and Rapture, who's going to be making his stakes debut.
Yeah, Rapture was very impressive last out, winning that maiden race by 6 lengths at Oaklawn Park. If he replicates that and steps forward a little bit, he's going to be tough. But again, he's definitely going to have to catch Getaway Car. I think he's the speed of the race, but I wouldn't take American Promise out either. He's a kind of a sneaky horse. 3 races back, he ran that big 95 buyer at Oaklawn Park, breaking his maiden, and he's another one now with those 2 scratches. He's in the drawing the rail now with Nick Juarez. I would imagine he's going to be pretty aggressive out of there as well to try and get a forward placing.
Yeah, it does seem like there's going to be quite a few horses that are going to be forwardly placed. Getaway Car, American Promise, I agree with you. And then Flavien Prat with Rapture, he was sitting just off the pace, going a 2-turn mile in a 16th race last start. Even though the pace was comfy and going 48-1, still think Flavien's going to have him more forwardly placed today for Rapture, looking for back-to-back wins. Flavien Prat, he's coming off his very first Eclipse Award as an outstanding jockey in 2024, and he also has one of the busiest travel schedules of any jockey. When you focus just in on the Kentucky Derby prep races, even going back to when these horses were 2-year-olds in the fall, this is a map of where he has traveled, trying to find the very best horse to ride on the first Saturday in May. Gaming in the Los Alamitos Futurity, he finished 3rd that day, defeated as the heavy favorite for Bob Baffert. Then in the Smarty Jones, he rode high hot property to a 5th place finish out there at Oaklawn Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Patch Adams, he went back to Hot Springs, Arkansas for the Southwest when Patch Adams was one of the top choices in there, finished a flat 4th. Then he went over to Oldsmar, Florida to ride Sam F. Davis for John Hancock in his stakes debut, and he won that race. Then over to New Orleans to the Big Easy at the Fairgrounds in the Risen Star. Septarian finished 6th that afternoon. He goes back to Hot Springs once again for the Rebel Stakes in that Grade 2 event, and Publisher finished 4th. Then essentially he kind of returned home out here to Southern California in the San Felipe Stakes, picked up the mount on Rodriguez, who finished 3rd. Now we go back to South Florida, and he rides Cancer McPatrick in his 3-year-old debut, gobbled up 2nd to get 25 points in his seasonal debut. That leads us into today out here in New Kent, Virginia at Colonial Downs for the Virginia Derby. He'll be aboard Rapture, looking for back-to-back wins as he makes his stakes debut. Here's more on one of the top jockeys in the country.
I grew up in the industry, and that's all I ever knew. That's all I ever want to do.
National treasure would not be denied.
You're not going to see this too often, maybe never again. Flight line.
And it is Moira. Sierra Leone does it in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
We salute Flavien Prat, his 56th British Stakes victory.
For Jockey of the Year, Flavien Prat.
So my home base right now, it's California. I spend the winter here, but live in New York in the summer, Kinlan for spring and fall. Go quite a bit to Oakland, Fairground. But the traveling part is not bad. You know, when you're away from the family, that's a bit more complicated. I try as much as I can to come back on Saturday night or Sunday morning and enjoy the family. Now we're going to the track to pick up my tack for this weekend. Morning, I'll go to Jackson. Thank you. Hey, how you doing? All good? I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I can travel and ride good horses every weekend, so I try to take full advantage of it. Boots, what you get saddled?
17, 20.
It's all dirt, right?
Yeah, everything dirt.
Okay, Jaime, thank you. All right. It's demanding to ride horses. You use your whole body. And it's not something that we do every day, so it's good to get a good motion and mobility in your body. Hey, good morning, Juan.
Morning, Claudia.
You okay? Tony, all good?
My goal for Flavien, to win another Eclipse Award.
He's gonna abuse me because you're here and I can't say
You can't complain.
I can't complain. I usually complain, it's too heavy.
Yeah, but with him, it's really just staying fit, just keeping muscle endurance, being able to ride 10 races 4 or 5 times a week without getting tired.
I use my legs a lot riding, and my legs, they get sore very quickly. It's amazing.
He likes big purses, little weights.
The day in the life of Flavien Prat.
Good life.
Goal for this year, I mean, the same basically, just improve my riding, try to ride good races. Last year was fantastic. Very fortunate that I had a lot of support, and there was a lot of hard work and sacrifice, but now it's a new year, and we'll try to do the same.
He's still young. He's only in his early 30s. He's in the prime of his career, and he's coming off his very first Eclipse Award in 2024. He'll be aboard Rapture in the Virginia Derby later today. But for Flavien Prat, we just went through all his travel schedule. How does a professional jockey stay locked in for that long in managing the demands of all that travel across the country?
We were talking about that. I got tired just looking at that map as far as he was going. I mean, it's pretty incredible how, I mean, he's at the absolute top of his game as a jockey, but I think what makes him a great athlete as well, it's like he's always trying to improve himself. Even though he's at the top right now, you could see him working out in the gym, just trying to get better and better. And as we mentioned, I mean, he's trying to find that Derby horse and win it. without getting that DQ that he had to be put up. He wants to win it for real, and he's got a real busy schedule, and he's trying to find that good one, and I think he will eventually.
And Caleb, as we send it back to you in the FanDuel TV studios, we know that Flavien, he's coming off a record-setting year for the most graded stakes wins and stakes wins in a single season in 2024. I went back and looked at it to see where that pace is at coming into this year. So from March 9th of 2024, last year, he had 12 stakes wins, 10 graded stakes wins. As of March 9th this year, which is his last stakes victory in the Pasadena at Santa Anita, 13 stakes wins, one better, 5 graded stakes wins so far. So even though he's 5 less on the graded stakes wins, actually has 1 more on the pace he set last year.
Amazing stuff there, guys. And after seeing that package, we'll know why when Flavien Prat accepted his award for the top Eclipse rider, he was thanking his travel agent, among others. But amazing showdown today of our most recent 2 Eclipse champion jockeys, Flavien Prat, Ira Ortiz Jr., going to be a good one, and we're not too far away from the opener at Colonial Downs. But we've talked about the Derby contenders. How about the Oaks contenders as we look at the current leaderboard? Now, keep in mind, on your FanDuel Racing app, right now, Live is one of only 2 future pulls for the Kentucky Oaks. They had 1 back in the fall, and they have 1 this weekend. So if you like one of the horses on this list or a horse not even on the list currently, they do have live odds currently at FanDuel Racing for the Kentucky Oaks itself. But Quiet Side gets the win there up on top there at Oaklawn Park. And seemingly right now that number 4, Good Cheer, is the big favorite in this lineup currently. Good Cheer has never lost a race. But we have the fillies also going today. They're from Colonial Downs, a 1-turn edition of the Virginia Derby. And gentlemen, what are we seeing in this race later on today?
Well, Caleb, first off, there's a couple defections out of here. Ken McPeak had reported earlier in the week he wasn't certain that Gal's Delight was going to run in the Virginia Oaks. She has officially scratched, so the 3 is scratched. And then Girl Math for trainer Rudy Brissett has also scratched in here. So Joe, originally a field of 8, it's reduced down to a field of 6, and really not an overwhelming standout in here when you take a look at the rest of the remaining 3-year-old fillies.
I agree. I mean, if you look at them from a numbers perspective, I think any one of these fillies could step up today and win. But I really like the outside horse, Fondly. I thought that was a very impressive win. Her first start at 10.78 of a mile. I think it's a very cozy post today, too, drawing the 8 hole, but scratched down to 6.
Let's take a closer look at the backtrack here of Fondly for Eclipse Thoroughbreds, a second-time starter. All right, so we picked up this replay here at the top of the stretch. We actually missed some significant trouble for this filly because the rider was trying to go up into a tight spot and actually did have to steady pretty significantly.
And that's why I like her so much in here. But as you mentioned earlier, she checked very hard, actually checked back to 4th and still re-rallied to end up winning by 4 going away. I mean, you don't see that very often, especially with a first-time starter like that. That's what impressed me the most. And I think distance is only going to be better for her because it didn't seem like she was getting tired whatsoever. Her gallop was really good. And again, that's a very demanding distance, 7/8 first time out.
So it's one thing to overcome that trouble when, say, you have 5, 6, 7 races underneath your belt, but you upgrade that performance considering she had all that trouble and it was only her career debut.
Yeah, I thought that was very impressive. And again, she drew to 1 hole that day. She had everything going against her and was still able to win going away by 4.
All right, Caleb, let's a closer look at Fondly on the outside as she is looking for back-to-back victories and looking to make her stakes debut in the Virginia Oaks as we send it back to you in the FanDuel TV studios.
Really bad anxiety.
So, Joaquin, we talked about the 3-year-old contenders, male and female, but how about the sprinters which are going to take stage later on here in Hot Springs, Arkansas at Oaklawn Park with one of their long-standing famous stakes races here over the years, a race that was dominated by Whitmore himself, and now he's going to be honored today with this race. But we got some fast speed figures going there from Arkansas today as we bring in Gabby Gaudet. And Gabby, one of the oldest stakes races in the books there at Oaklawn Park, the Hot Springs, it was won so many times by Whitmore that they just decided to name the race after him.
Because I'd put in a big
and rightly so, Caleb. Whitmore was definitely a horse that loved Oaklawn, but he could win anywhere he went for trainer Ron Moquette. Such an amazing racehorse as well. And I think he's really honored today by the field that's assembled later at Oaklawn. There are actually 2 horses in here that have the potential to win this race twice. Tejano Twist actually won the Whitmore Stakes 2 years ago, and Jackson Traveler, who's 10-1 on the morning line, won this race last last year. You see Glengarry is a scratch out of this event, as well as Durante. But I think really how we should lead the conversation is with Booth, because it was a huge win last time out for this horse in the Commodore Stakes at Oaklawn Park. He earned a 105 Beyer speed figure for this victory. He shot out of the gate like a cannon and then took the field gate to wire. I think that's the key to his success. He's a horse that doesn't necessarily want to pass too many horses, so a good gate break and a forward position I think is key. And it's interesting because every time he's gone against Stakes Company in the past, he didn't do well, and he was much shorter prices in those events. He was 5th in the Lafayette. He was 5th in a stakes race 2 starts back at Oaklawn as well. But finally, he showed up last time out. We'll see if he can show up once again today. Like I said, I think key is a good forward position for him. The one Tejana twist for trainer Chris Hartman, as I mentioned, he won this race a couple of years ago, and he was actually 2nd in this race last year against Jackson Traveler. But he comes into the race with an impressive win last time out in the King Cotton. He beat Happy as a choice in that event as well. And one thing to note about Tejana Twist, he can win anywhere, there's no doubt, but he definitely likes it at Oaklawn. He, in 10 starts, has won 4 races at Oaklawn, 5 second-place finishes. He's just a horse that loves this specific track, and I do feel like sometimes Oaklawn is a horse for course type of surface. Tejana Twist will have to work out a trip from the rail, but he did work out a trip from the rail last time out. That said, he did have one of the best riders in America, and Flavien Prat, so he's going to have to work out a trip from the rail. Kayla, as I send it back to you, I actually like Close the Game Sugar in there. That's going to be my top pick. I like the fact that he's been given a little bit of a break since his last race, because when he shipped out to Del Mar, I thought that race took a lot out of him. So he comes in to the race fresh, and I thought he was really interesting for Kevin Rice.
And Gabby, I feel like Close the Game Sugar kind of came on the scene out of nowhere. This time last year, I'd never even heard of Close the Game Sugar, but then he went to Churchill and got a win, and then defeated Skelly, who was one of the top sprinters at the time. And the connections were loving the success last year for Close the Game Sugar. All right, so we talked about the action on the racetrack, but how does that correlate to the horse players out there? Well, in Sin City there in Las Vegas, Dave Weaver on site for the National Horse Players Championship. The famous NHC, whoever wins will be crowned the Eclipse Champion Handicapper of the Year. Coming up on day 2 today. So let's go back to Dave for a recap of day 1.
And it's not covered on the underside either, so then everything got
National Horse
like
Players
went
Championship.
like we literally found a nest of baby bunnies
NHC live here in Las Vegas at the Horseshoe. And look, they're playing for $825,000, which is a record prize pool here for the 800 players. It's a little bit less than 800 players actually, but 800 cards or participants as far as the contest goes, which means the top 10%, exactly 80 people, will get through today and advance to what will be the final 10%. Playing for the $825,000 on Sunday. So today's moving day. Look, we've seen it before where you came in with $0 on Friday and you made a big run on Saturday and you made it. But Dan Piazza was the big story on day number 1 yesterday when he ended up with $167.22. Second place, $167.18 by 4 cents. He is the day 1 leader. So got a chance to catch up with Dan. He was very happy about that yesterday. Throughout the day, we'll be doing some interviews. We'll be bouncing around, maybe catch up with some past champions. Speaking of that, 13 past champions are in the contest. Nobody has ever won twice. So maybe one of those 13 will become the first 2-time winner of the NHC. But we'll throw it back to you in the studio. Check back later today for more live updates here from Vegas. Vegas Dave, they call me. Oh, no, that name's taken.
Dave, thank you very much. And if you've never seen that before, they're all in one big ballroom. Lots of excitement for all those races, and day 2 coming up here later on this afternoon. Speaking of this afternoon, we have our money back special in play when you wager $10 and opt in at FanDuel Racing. If your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd, if the field size is big enough, we'll refund the wager. Later on in the program, taking a look at the 8th from Colonial, races 10 from Oaklawn and Gulfstream Park, race 8 from Santa Anita, and also later on tonight from Florence, race 6 from Turfway Park. So getting you set for an exceptional Saturday of racing. And coming up on the top of the hour, we have our first live race you're going to see here on FanDuel TV.